Hello, everybody. Hope you've all had a wonderful Christmas/holiday break. We are still on hiatus. We're about halfway through. We've got a couple more weeks till we're back. Middle of January is the goal. Until then, we have new episodes of Earth vs. Soup coming, as well as this. We're launching, finally, our Stargate SG-TWIG show, Tactical Weapons Integration Group. Now, we've talked about this for about a year. This is an intro I'm doing for the pilot episode 0 that we did actually last February when we thought the game was coming out earlier before the pandemic, mucked all that up. So just to get everybody back up to speed, it's an introduction as to who we are, the idea of what the show is going to be. And then following this episode every Saturday for the next several weeks until we, go back to record more, you're going to receive episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So this is where the conception of the entire thing was put together. And I figured it would be a good recap for that. As far as anything else is concerned with the programming of the show, it's going to be slightly different from this pilot than what we ended up with when we came to actually record about a month and a half ago. And we've got more episodes that we wanted to record, but Christmas and everything got in the way, so we're going to be reconvening mid-January to do that. But every Saturday you're going to get a new episode, and this is sort of a reminder or introduction for those that haven't listened. And I'll come back sort of at the end of the show just to explain where we're going from here and what the schedule looks like for this program. So without further ado, here is the episode 0, our conceptual episode, recap of what we were planning to do last year, and then leading into what we actually are doing right now.
Chevron 6 engaged. Chevron 7 locked.
That never gets old. I love that.
This is Phoenix Base, and we are ready to report in. That's right, guys. Welcome to Stargate TWIG, otherwise standing for Tactical Weapons Integration Group, right here exclusively on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I am your gate master for this wonderfully licensed RPG coming to us from Wyvern Gaming. This is based upon the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition kind of skeleton, and then they fleshed it out to fit more in the Stargate universe. So whether we are Tok'ra and Tari fighting against the Goa'uld, or we are going against Una rebels, or whatever else that happens to be out there in the Milky Way galaxy and perhaps beyond, we are here to fight for the planet of Earth and any other planets that have been oppressed by the system lords. But I'm not alone as I begin to form this new team, which will be given experimental weaponry that has been captured and been developed in secret. I'm joined by my co-host from This Week in Geek,
Alex. Hello.
Yes, and Alex is the guy who first got me into Stargate many, many moons ago. And now I'm doing a rapid rewatch of the series in order to prepare us for things. And it's been quite the adventure, as Alex has wrote us a essential watch list, which we could post on the website if people wanted to know what episodes we're kind of basing things off of, or if you want Alex's opinion on here's what you should watch to kind of get you caught up to the point in which the RPG takes place. Following down my list of people I will be introducing is yet another member of Stargate TWIG. I will be introducing the host of this anime.
It's Ken from this anime and also some other stuff that's down the pipeline, but whatever.
So yes, I have known Ken for many, many, many years. He's been a long time TWIG fan. We've collaborated on a few other things. We used to play Terrible Warriors together. When I left that project, kind of left a void in my heart looking to fill something else. And then Alex had pitched the idea, hey, let's do our own actual play podcast. And then, hey, wouldn't you know it, Stargate got licensed. We both like adventure in space, and this kind of happened. And Ken, I knew, was a pretty good role player. I had a lot of fun playing Kagagami High with him, which is a wonderfully weird system. I remember I was a girl with centipedes all over myself. And,
Yeah, that game is random.
yes, it is. And then next on my list is another longtime Twig fan who eventually became a collaborator on the show, and he's become quite a good friend over the last little while. And I'm going to be talking about JT from Saskatoon, and he is the host of Twig Sunday Funnies.
Hello, folks, and I don't know how I feel about you calling me a collaborator, Mike. It sounds like I'm plotting an insurrection or something.
Yes, and you need to turn up your mic or get really close to it. Swallow it, dare I say.
You would like me to do that, wouldn't you?
Yes. I have known JT for a number of years. Me and him have been working on the comic book show since the summer of last year. He's exposed me to a lot of new things, discovering through Valiant Comics, Archer, and Armstrong. I've read some Justice League through him that I really, really, really liked, and they don't continue that line anymore. We got a new show coming out this week where we talk about last year in comics. So I'm reading some books I've never read before. So that's kind of exciting. So I'll be going through the world of the inked reality, such as it may be, here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. And then finally, the last member of our SG team is actually someone who you've actually heard before on the show, but not for almost 10 years or so. And it's not one of the founding members, but it's a guy I used to be friends with way back in high school. And I can't remember how exactly we met. All I know is that one time he puked on my cafeteria floor, and it was wonderfully glorious. The destroyer of gourds, my swordsman, the guy who I want on my zombie team, Liam Larson.
Hello.
Yes, Liam is my next door neighbor, so he's in my little social bubble. And the cool thing about Liam, other than just being a vast knowledgeum of old kind of cultures, weapons, and stuff like that, Liam is former military. So if I ever have a question about how something should function, he knows it because he lived it. So I do find that tremendously neat how we do have that aspect here on the team. So maybe we'll bring something a little bit different to some of the actual Stargate podcasts you may have heard before in the past. And so what this is sort of a episode 0, sort of a preview of what's going to happen on Stargate Twig when the show starts out proper. And this is kind of our season 14 special content. So go us. We are going to be doing this on a more regular basis once the full book from Wyvern Gaming comes out. If you want to see what we are playing, I'm just going to get a chance to pull the website up, but I think it's StargateTheRPG.com or something along those lines.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is too. Otherwise, you can just look on Facebook, look up Wyvern Gaming. It is on there. They also have a really cool Discord community, which is tremendously active on there. If you want to talk with the developers, there's a living campaign. You can still back the game. Actually, through some of the backing shenanigans, I think I ended up with 2 copies of the main book, so Alex is getting a belated birthday present whenever that shows up. So that cost me $100 I wasn't expecting.
Yay.
Thank you for not understanding verbiage and doing backer kit at like 3 o'clock in the morning. But it's not their fault. It's great.
In reality, you would have backed it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know what? I'm cool with getting another copy of the book. Alex has been in love with this property, and you actually did back it at its original level when it was at its ridiculous level where you got like the special cover, 2 copies of the book, all the add-ons and everything.
Oh, I did, and then the 2 consoles came out, and I was like, I went, oh, wait, I have to get warranties. I had everything else paid off, and I went, oh, but I need like an extra $200 for warranties.
Yeah, so it kind of kicked us in the kind of teeth there. But then, however, fortunately, I told Liam about this project, and he's like, well, I'm not about to be outdone here. And Liam, what did you do?
I went for the highest level of backing, so I got all the goodies.
So yeah, so we will have access to everything here in the show. We will be working together through PDF, through book. So I highly encourage you to check out this game. It's StargateTheRPG.com if you want to find out more information about that or look them up on Facebook. Okay, so what is episode 0? This is us just kind of talking about what we want from the campaign. You guys have known me as a game master from Terrible Warriors a number of years ago. You also know me from Nerd to the Third Powers, Fools Who Ride the Dreamstone, which should be wrapping up its campaign in hopefully like a month or so. I don't know. The episodes come out sporadically, so I'm not 100% sure, but those have been done since like the fall of last year. So what we're going to talk about is, what do you guys want from this game? You guys have all heard me game master over the years. You know what my style is. What do you want Stargate to be? Because the book takes place in a very unique place in the Stargate timeline, where all the races that oppose the system lords have kind of said, you know what, we've had enough. We have to unite if we're going to defeat these guys. So SG-1 is off doing their own thing. They're at the Cheyenne Mountain Complex. There is a new place called the Phoenix Base, which was developed separately of the SG-1 program and is off world. So this is a Stargate on another planet where like we are launching our own missions against the Guald and the other monsters and creatures that are out there in the kind of galaxy. So I guess we'll kind of start things at the top of the batting order. Alex, what do you expect, or what do you want from the Stargate campaign that I'm hopefully going to be running here?
Well, a little bit of nostalgia, I guess, for the style of missions the show's had, but also when watching the show back in the day, I pretty much jumped in when I think season 8 or 9 was starting. I had seen sporadic episodes, and it was one of those things where back in the day, I just thought of it as, another trashy TV show when it would come on, and I'd sort of, flip channels until I got into it at work. And some people at work were super into it, and I binge watched, I think, the first 4 seasons in like a month. And in watching it then, and I was always wondering, what were the other teams doing? Yes, like SG-1 was sort of the catch-all team that sort of would make first contact, but also go in after the fact. But you'd hear about other teams that were away on missions, and you wouldn't necessarily know what they did. A few times, they would be reconnaissance missions, or they would be the team that goes in after first contact to sort of set up bases. And then you'd hear like, oh, so-and-so's team is off doing research on this, or so-and-so's team is doing infrastructure, yada, yada. And I thought they never really did episodes where the team would, they'd have to bring in like a demolition team to excavate something, or build bridges, or do something like that. I was thinking it would be kind of neat to be, a team that has to do that sort of thing. Or, there's more than just system lords and the main team to worry about of the rogues gallery of bad guys. With so many teams, there must have been other exciting things happening. So it's just kind of neat to be sort of one of the other tactical teams that isn't, stuck with the main plot of the story of the show.
Yeah, because that's one of the things. I mean, I like Stargate, and I was always interested by the lore, as Alex and I did our watch through a couple of years ago. We got as far as the first episode of season 4, I think, when the replicators show up, and then just life and production got in the way. And I always wondered what else is out there. And the show does have a pretty rich kind of rogues galleries, but you guys know me. I love my crossovers. I love creating weird shit. And hopefully I'll be able to kind of bring some of that to you. So let's throw things over to Ken right now. Ken, what do you want out of the show?
I mean, I am a Stargate noob. I have seen the movie, and I actually rewatched it this past weekend. And I also just like wiki dive stuff all the time. So I've got a general knowledge of lore. It's not I'm not necessarily completely blind, but for all intents and purposes, I'm very blind when it comes to Stargate. And overall, what I think this show would be like, I also think Alex's idea of like, okay, we're not necessarily the entirely shooty group, but I think the idea of us being kind of like the people that are building and helping as assistants to the main crux of the story, I think is a good idea, and kind of where they built the books to kind of fill in the gaps. Like I like that idea, just like filling in the gaps of, okay, where did this bridge come from, or where did this structure come from? Who built it, kind of thing. Even though it's part of the military. And then overall, like the thoughts on where you're going to take it. I expect something completely out of nowhere to blindside us at some point, and our jaws are just down on the floor.
Fantastic. All right, so let's throw things over to Twig Sunday Funnies host JT. What do you expect from this actual play podcast? Where do you see SG-TWIG going over the course of our 8 to 12 episodes I've got kind of planned out so far?
Well, if past history with your game mastering on Terrible Warriors and the general insanity that you've brought into our lives, Mike, I expect something somewhere between SG-1 and Wormhole Extreme, to be perfectly honest. I want to have fun. And by that, I don't mean that I'm not going to be like a proper galactic bridge build. Can't use words. I want to have fun, but I want to have so much fun that it just becomes a cartoon. You know, I want to have, like, say, later seasons of SG-1, once they really kind of develop the lore. You get out of those first 2 or 3 seasons worth of, like, stumbling blocks where, you know, you have, like, Big Ronnie Cox coming in as Senator Kinsey and trying to shut down the SGC for the umpteenth time because, well, we don't need to worry about other planets. You know, I want to have fun. I want to have adventure. I want to, and like, was it Ken or Alex said, you know, that nostalgia of one of the movies. Like I was in with Stargate from day one. Like I saw the movie, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's one of the last great spectacle, awe-inspiring type of sci-fi movies. Not that there haven't been other sci-fi movies since. It's just, that's the last one that really had that je ne sais quoi that just sticks in your brain.
That kind of realness.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's like something we'd never seen before. Like nothing.
That's right there. Something we hadn't seen before. There's not a lot in sci-fi that hasn't been done anymore.
Yeah.
Or at least, I mean, sometimes things will pop up and we'll be like, oh, wow, we didn't see that coming. But that was like, this is a broad thing that hadn't been done or approached in cinema before. I mean, they basically just took the concept of that conspiracy theory documentary. What was it? Chariots of the Gods.
Yeah.
From, what was it, the 60s or 70s? And they took that concept and went, well, what if it was aliens that built the pyramids? And then went, okay, let's make, high concept sci-fi out of that.
Yeah.
And there hasn't really been anything since that. We had seen like Roman stuff and like when they would show up in Star Trek. We'd seen the big alien bugs. We'd seen all these sorts of things. What we hadn't seen was something that truly mixed Indiana Jones with aliens.
Yeah. And the only other thing I can think of that really hits the nail on the head like that is Disney's Atlantis.
Yeah.
Like Milo Thatch is Daniel Jackson as played by Michael J. Fox. Like that's entirely that. And that's the sort of fun I want to have with this, is like high adventure, high stakes. Somebody might fall in love and have his heart broken along the way. Who knows? It's Michael Dodd. This guy can screw with us on the best level.
Well, and surprise, surprise, we ended up getting, Atlantis in Stargate, right? So, they did end up going there. That's what happens when you get, what was it, 15 years of or 15 seasons of TV, but 17 or 17 seasons in 15 years.
Yeah. And we
All right,
don't talk about infinity.
So moving on to our final SG Twig member, that'll be Liam. What do you expect from this show? Because you and I haven't role played together since high school. So I have learned some tricks. I know how to read now, more or less, although people who've listened to the Dreamstone will know sometime I misinterpret a rule every now and again.
Yeah, it's I won't lie that I'm rusty. I think the last time I played was in any RPG was early to mid 2000s, and it was a Harnmaster game in Saskatoon. So, I mean, I'm expecting to get my ass kicked, I think, just because I'm so, I don't want to say so new to this, but so rusty. But I do expect to have a lot of fun with it because, I mean, for me, Stargate, like growing up as a kid, I had country cable, so we didn't get a lot of shows. But my favorites to watch were Star Trek and Tour of Duty. And then all of a sudden Stargate comes along, and it's, I mean, make the Indiana Jones and Aliens comparison, but for me it was Tour of Duty meets Star Trek. It was perfect. And
So kind of looking at this, Alex, like I said, has put out a watch list, which if you look below this episode post, there is the watch list that Alex has compiled, which are the essential episodes. So what I'm doing right now as their gate master, which is what Wyvern Gaming has decided to call us rather than kind of dungeon masters, I've been trying to put together the lore and learning how the system lords work, how the Gwald society functions. And Alex has explained to me how certain regions of the world and certain gods are typically seen as evil, whereas certain ones are seen as good. And it's not a reflection upon the religion. It's when the Gwald came to Earth to take their slaves, that's how they portrayed themselves. And
they pretty much came. It's not so much that they picked a particular race or creed or anything. It was they came wherever there was the most population and the most civilization at the time. And, you know, when they originally came, it was Babylonian and Egyptian times, right? So they found us here with that. And then the Northern European and European settlements sort of settled later on. And that's when the Asgard came and they were more benevolent. So it's... You'll notice in the show that it's the most ancient of world civilizations seem to have system lords in control.
So what I've been kind of looking at as I've been developing this, I've been looking at certain ancient religions and what specifically I want to pull from them. And I've got 3 people designed. I have the main system lord, and I have their first prime, who would be their equivalent to Teal'c, who was kind of the head of the Royal Guard. And I was asking Alex in a chat, well, how does that function? Are there different sub roles underneath that? So I'm learning how the society works because I want you guys to see a different side of this. And through my system lord and through my big bad of the season, so much like, say, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and we're going to fight the Master this season, or we're going to fight Adam or whatever, there will be a season baddie, but there will be a kind of overarching story as we go through each adventure. And Stargate does something a little bit different that a lot of RPGs don't necessarily do as well. It introduces more social encounters, and there's kind of a social system built into the game. I'm still very rusty with it, but basically it boils down to not everything in Stargate can be solved with an application of superior firepower. You have to negotiate your way out of it. And that's where you'd see in the show, where you'd see Daniel Jackson talking to a civilization, or Carter might talk with a kind of scientist, or you'd even have Jack being able to communicate with another member of the society saying, hey, maybe there's a better way, or he'd make a connection with someone. Like there was an episode I just watched the other night where he visited the Nox for the first time. and he befriends one of the Nox children, and they're talking.
Jack is basically he'll shoot unless it's a kid, and then generally he connects with the kid.
Yeah. So I'm trying to build things into it. And because we're on Phoenix base, which is off world, and we do have connections to Stargate SG-1, I have decided as the game master, everything that has happened all the way up to the season, which in the book it says season 6, episode 9, I think the episode's called Alliances, has happened. After that, you don't know what's going to happen. You have an idea. Certain things that are happening on Earth may still happen. SG-1 may still do X, Y, Z. Certain system lords may fall. But you're off-world. You are virtually on your own. I think the guy who commands Phoenix Base is called Lawyer or Law or something like that. I'll probably make up my own guy so it's easier to remember. But they are in control. This base is made up of people who want to fight back. These are rebels. These are freedom fighters from all across the Milky Way that have joined up. There are different races of people. They've got Unos, who are the first hosts for the Goa'uld, which I didn't realize when Alex put in his watch list. In Thor's Hammer, we meet the first Unos, and it's voiced by Darth Vader. I didn't know until today. That kind of took me by surprise, because I'm like, your voice sounds so familiar, but why?
Mufasa?
I thought it was Tony Todd.
Who also this year is I actually just like last week, dude's 90 years old.
Jesus, Darth Vader sound amazing. So yeah, there's like stuff that I want to do with this game because I wanted to make it my own. Like I don't want to follow, well, you know what's going to happen in SG-1, so you can anticipate what I'm doing. The beauty of setting this at an off-world base very similar to Stargate Command is you're separate. Obviously, you still get your orders from the U.S. military, you still get your orders from the kind of president, but you have your own, like, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for here? Your own mission, and that's to acquire technology, find allies, see what's out there. Because first and foremost, you're scientists. But your particular group, Tactical Weapons Integration Group, you are the tip of the spear. And I've kind of designed part of your team, or part of the idea behind your team is you're given all the experimentally cool toys. Like maybe they captured one of the Zat guns and maybe it's been reverse engineered to do something different now. Or maybe you've captured a weapon from a fallen civilization. You just figured out how it works, but there's only one, so don't fuck it up. Stuff like that. But you're also going to have oversight from the U.S. kind of military. Because, Alex, isn't there an organization in Stargate that basically they're the bad guys, but they're U.S. military?
There's a few over the course of the franchise.
Yeah, the NID and the rogue NID agent.
Yeah. The NID is technically not bad, but there are elements within them that are. And then there is like a rogue NID that the NID doesn't even know about. That is, it's like true Shadow Ops stuff. There's also I guess in the first couple seasons, it's the oversight committee is run by, was it the Joint Chiefs or something? Mm-hmm. And then they bring in the Russians because they find a gate there. And then eventually, 3/4 of the way through the SG-1, the other superpowers like China, Britain, and other countries are brought in, sort of in a need-to-know Pentagon type of situation.
Oh yeah, that was at season 6.
Yeah,
it's when I think the Antarctic thing was discovered, which Mike hasn't seen yet.
I've heard about it and read about it.
And then once you go, Atlantis itself is entirely an international mission where every crew member is from a different country.
So with my game, I'm having it open. There is no background I'm going to restrict. If you want to invent your own race, I'm fine with that as long as they're not ridiculously overpowered. as long as they make sense. If you know how to design a race in D&D, I'm fine with it.
Yes, and nobody can play a furling because they're talked about but never seen in the series, so there can't be stats for them.
Aw.
Damn
There
it.
can be no furlings unless you want to play as one of the furlings in the weird dream sequence from episode 200 where they ended up looking like Ewoks. And if that's the case, then we're going to give you like quarter health or something stupid like that.
You get to live for 1 health point.
Literally, Michael, they show up as Ewoks because they think with a name like furlings they must be cute. when for all, like, the creators of the show said, for all we know, we've seen them, or we haven't, or they've been there and we don't know they've been there. Like, for all we know, they could be around us at all times. That was sort of a joke, is that of the 4 races, we never get to see who they are, but they're always talked about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I promise you that'll be one mystery that we never solve during our particular
Yes,
adventures.
because that's enough that, like, that's canon we don't want to mess with on our first go at.
Yeah, no. And that's another thing too. Like, kind of doing this, I want to do this in a different way than I've done other shows. So, as some of you may have caught from my social media, which is at Birdman Dodd, I've been taking a lot of creative writing courses, and literally as of this record, I just applied to a local college to take even more. And one of the things I learned about it, and it should be a given, but it's a lot more difficult than you might think, it's developing internal world consistency. And that's why I was asking Alex all these questions about the Jaffa kind of social structure and how it works with the kind of system lords. So making things work and fit in canon is something that I want to do, because I want to do right by the Stargate community. Because one of the things I've learned by being in the Facebook groups, being in the Discord, stuff like that for Stargate, they are a remarkably welcoming community. Like, we interviewed Brad from Wyvern Gaming just before the Kickstarter ended, all the way back in, I want to say, October or November. And he was a really good guy. And just talking with some of the fans on their, like, Discord, even on Reddit, you just see how passionate these people are for a franchise that, as Alex said, has been around for almost 2 decades, has a dedicated fan base, but nobody talks about it.
It's in a weird situation where Star Trek and Star Wars fan bases are unbelievably toxic, to the point where you can't discuss what you like or don't like without everybody, flaming each other. And the only other franchise that's sort of like that, Babylon 5, can be sort of gatekeepy in that it's like staunch, old school, hardcore sci-fi fans, whereas SG-1 or Stargate as a franchise is probably the largest TV sci-fi franchise that is ridiculously open. And
well, that's because you start off the series and you start off just like the concept in such a ludicrous situation where it's just like
the show became more hard sci-fi as it went along, which is very different from most other shows. We'll start with the high concept and then try to get more and more audience to like it by going more broad. And they went more narrow as they went along. And then, by the time they do, the only misstep that is sort of made the audience, divided a little bit, was a lot of people don't like Universe because they saw it as them trying to get hip by casting all people in their late teens, early 20s, and making it a sort of a copycat of, like, a mixture of Star Trek Voyager meets Battlestar Galactica. And, the show gets better as it went along, and it shouldn't have been canceled, but I sort of see that because it went from being a show that families could watch to being a show that pretty much only people in their 20s liked. That being said, the producers are now saying that they're about 75% done working out a deal with MGM to make a new series where they're going to tie in the storylines of all the different series.
Yeah, and
So it's only 12 years after they said they were going to be doing some TV movies that never got made.
Yeah.
So it's surprising, but I mean, the time is right. MGM's going bankrupt again, And whenever MGM goes bankrupt, they rely on Stargate to save them.
Yeah. And they have,
and they most likely will, because James Bond is literally the only thing that they're holding on to.
Well, they said that for years, MGM would have gone bankrupt in the early 2000s, and it was Stargate that saved them. Like, it was just being such a consistent moneymaker on TV. Surprisingly, the toys didn't do as well as they should have, but just in overall, like, fan conventions, media, and DVD sales, they were selling more seasons of Stargate, like, than they could shake a stick at. And for the longest time, you know, they were kicking themselves because Fox was the one putting out the disc, because MGM had ceased to operate at that point. But it's really surprising to me that more people don't know the franchise, yet it's like amongst sci-fi fans, everybody knows it, but it's not like a household name like Star Trek or Star Wars. And it might just be because there was only the one theatrical film.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing Stargate in theaters on its opening weekend back when it came out in 1994, because I had no idea what it was. It just looked cool. I saw the Stargate special effect. I saw Kurt Russell. I'm like, you know what? That looks kind of neat. Let's go see that. Because I used to go see a movie every Saturday for like probably 10 years when I lived up in my old hometown of Owen Sound. Okay, so here's my next question to the group, and we're going to start from the bottom, working our way up. So starting with Liam, ending with Alex. Okay, so we've talked about where we kind of want the game to go, what we're thinking. What kind of character do you want to play? Now, according to the official rules of the game, and you are not necessarily like beholden to this, if you don't want to play these basic character classes, you can respec into whatever you want, because technically you only start as one of these and then you can specialize into whatever you want to do later. There are 6, and the first one is the diplomat, and I'm just going to read this excerpt from the book. The diplomat who is charged with making peaceful contact with new civilizations and maintaining relationships with allied groups. The engineer that maintains the wider range of technology used by the Phoenix site. The medic designated to keep the team healthy and combat ready. The scientist who investigates the mysteries of new worlds and lost cultures. The scout that keeps his team safe in the wilderness and behind enemy lines. And finally, the soldier tasked with keeping the team alive when the inevitable danger of Stargate travel rears its head. So, Liam, where do you see yourself fitting in within Stargate TWIG?
Well, I was considering playing as an UNAS and then going against type and being a scientist or a healer or something like that. But I think I may just go with the scout, because the scout sounds like it's you're calling us the tip of the spear, so we're going to need reconnaissance guys. So I'm leaning towards the scout. I like the perks. I like that you're not quite as hemmed in as the soldier class.
Okay. Good idea. Good idea. I like that, because again, you can also bring a unique flavor to the scout, because you can actually use military tactics. Like, you'll be able to direct Alex, Ken, and JT, say, okay, guys, here's how this would work in the real world. And then it's my plan to throw a monkey wrench in that and hope to God you don't outthink me. Because I've never played against someone who has a superior knowledge of something like this. Like, this is going to be a real challenge for me. I've had military games, like we've played Star Wars and Starship Troopers, which all have a kind of military aspect to it, but I've never played anybody who's lived it. So this will be very interesting. So moving on to our next person, who I hope has been checking the messages that I've been sending him. JT, where do you see yourself kind of fitting in within Stargate TWIG?
Probably haven't checked the messages there, Mike. Apologies.
That's okay. I just want you to turn up your mic, because
I've turned it up and I've been leaning in. I have no idea.
I can do it in post, but I think you need to turn on boost and gain for your mic later on. Okay. But yeah, I can do it in post. Don't worry about this.
All right, no problem. Okay,
volume was all an illusion. Everybody listening has already heard him being loud at this point.
Yeah. Well, I was looking at the scout or the soldier. Just I'm not the smartest guy in the real world, so I don't know if I do very well as a doctor or the engineer.
So Operation Hide Behind JT.
Yes, I am. Yes. But no, I was kind of looking at the scout because I like playing rogues and like D&D and that, and I think there are some aspects there that I could get behind easily enough. And I have no problem being the meat shield, the tank of the team if necessary. As far as race, I'm just going to be plain old vanilla Tauri human. Haven't figured out exactly where in my backstory I'm going to come from on Earth. Maybe I'll just come from Canada, because the only other Canadian I know we got in the Stargate franchise is Rodney McKay. And as much as I love the actor David Hewlett, I cannot stand McKay as a character.
All right. Oh, sorry, Jason.
There is one idea I had for my long arm, like my big weapon, and I'll talk with Mike off air about that. That's not really something we need to get in here.
All right, fantastic. All right, so moving on to Ken, what's your role?
I mean, it was going to be one of two things, and I think JT being our muscle is fine. I kind of want to lead the team. I'd be willing to lead the team.
Okay, so you're going to be our Jack O'Neill. Interesting. I like this. Okay, so you're probably going to play a soldier. Do you know what race you might play?
Nothing at the moment. I might I might be human. I might not. Once the book is finalized and everything, I might just like immediately hit something that catches my eye or something like that. But more than likely human.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Also, once again, I'm reminding my players, don't be afraid to create your own race. We'll give them basic stats. You tell me a backstory. If it can fit on the back of an index card, I'm fine with it. We'll make it work. And then finally, to the Stargate prophet himself, who knows everything about the franchise.
I don't know everything. Don't put that on me. Because there'll be somebody that listens that's like, excuse me, but in episode number 144, this happens. Yeah, we don't want that. Now, refresh my memory from the list that we have here. What are the different?
Okay.
I guess
the six basic character classes are the diplomat, the engineer, the medic, the scientist, the scout, and the soldier. So we have 2 scouts, 1 soldier, and
I guess I should be an engineer if we're part of a tactics team, right?
Yeah, I mean that would make sense, because if you capture a piece of technology,
and it's not to say that we can't all have some diplomatic elements to our characters either, like that's sort of a requirement. But yeah, I would say an engineer probably would make sense, because then I could make bombs and things too. So.
Okay.
Or like if we're going to go in and build a bridge or blow a bridge up or something, somebody's got to know how to do it.
All right. So
and his races. What were the races that they had listed at least before the finalized numbers or races?
Let me really quickly look in the book for that. Obviously, you get stuff like Jaffa, different variants of the Tari,
Nox,
you
Tolan.
Get Unas. Something like the Nox.
I for some reason I'm. It may not be okay. I'll have to look into it. But if it's not, I'll pick something else. I might go with an Asgard.
I don't think I could make that work, as they're not listed in the book. That may be a little too powerful.
I was thinking like Asgard frozen in ice or something that comes out. Yeah, but if that doesn't work, then because we're taking place in season 6. Engineer.
You can also be anything you want.
I know. I was thinking there's a couple races. Why am I?
Well, if you want to go engineer,
I'm drawing a blank on the people that have the ion cannon that won't share anything.
But they're
a little too advanced.
I do have a suggestion, Alex. If you want to do engineer like that, I forget the name of his people, but the people that Jonas Quinn came from.
The Aura?
That was my second. No, that was my second thought with the Jonas Quinn people, because they were roughly of they were 20 years behind us, 30 years.
Height of the Cold War, I think it might have been mentioned, like
Yeah.
World War II, like that.
Yeah, it seemed to be somewhere in the 1950s or 60s is where they were at. But they were still similar with slightly different backgrounds. That would work. The other one was there was the full-on World War II people, but they all blew themselves up. So that doesn't count. And they were kind of evil. And weren't they the ones that were run by the guy that played Jigsaw?
I think I remember that episode. Yeah, where they wanted like
they're kind of bad. So yeah, you know what, Jonas Quinn's people might be one I could go with. There's a few other. I mean, I could just play Ergo the entire time, but if I played as Ergo, it would get annoying me playing as Dom DeLuise for like 12 hours.
Oh, please no! Please, dear God, no! I love the DeLuise family. His oldest son was Penhall in 21 Jump Street back in the day. He directed a lot of episodes.
A ton of episodes. He also in Wormhole Extreme. Is that the one where he wrote the episode, directed the episode, played?
I think that was his youngest brother, because I know.
Well, the second youngest brother was in that. Who was also in. Both of them were in Sequenced, and then but he plays the director of the fake show within a show, and he had to direct himself playing the director.
Yeah, because the brother that had the gills on Sequest was in Wormhole Extreme, and then the one brother that was the dad on Wizards of Waverly Place was Carter's boyfriend and showed
That's
up.
The youngest brother. It was basically the DeLuise family.
Yeah,
and then the Canadian producers did the whole show. But yeah, so I mean, I could play as a robot, Grell the robot.
Actually, I'm not opposed to you playing artificial characters.
Ooh. What about a replicator android?
Yeah, that might have spoiled something for Mike, but
no, I know there are. Are there good replicators?
Well, sort of.
Kind of, yeah. Like I'm not opposed to, if you can come up with an idea for robot people or cyborgs.
I don't think in season 6 we can have a good replicator. But yeah, there's options. But yeah, I think for sure playing the engineer probably makes sense if we've got such a combat heavy group.
Okay, so there we go. So we have an engineer, a soldier, and 2 scouts which will be playing with experimental bang bangs and all sorts of other things as they go through the Phoenix site Stargate. And obviously, will we have crossovers with Stargate SG-1? I would anticipate I'll be one.
I like the idea of my my engineer being a little paranoid and constantly having like himself strapped with grenades because he won't be taken.
He's got a suicide vest on all the time.
Well, think about or I could be a survivor of a ghoul trying to jump into me, and so ever since then I'm paranoid and I wear like Kevlar around my neck, like a scarf all the time.
You know, that's perfectly viable.
How about the lone survivor of a Ritu attack and you're constantly worried about invisible enemies?
Oh, God. That can happen. It's like I'm sleeping, you go to wake me up and I've got my thumbs on like strings connected to grenades. I'm just ready to just pull. It's like, don't pop your vest. That's okay. It's just us.
Dude, we got to be careful around him.
I was having such a wonderful dream. Everyone died.
You were there, and you were there.
You were there, and I look, oh, you were there. You were everywhere.
Just pulls out a gun, starts popping off shots.
So, as we begin to kind of close things out, I got to say I'm very optimistic for Stargate Tactical Weapons Integration Group. We are waiting, as we mentioned, for the final PDF to be sent out to backers, or once again, if you go to it, like I said, I'm pretty sure it's StargateTheRPG.com. You can still get the book as far as I know. We want to make sure we have the final rules before we start making characters, before I start looking through the rules. There was a preview PDF available, but we don't know how much of that has changed since they were asking for people catching corrections, people still submitting game feedback towards the end of the Kickstarter. Or
it appeared to be somewhere in the realm of 75 to 90% done, but that's still enough wiggle room that could have changed things.
So we want to make sure we are going well. So what can you expect from this game? Well, once again, once season 6, episode 10 happens, you don't know what happens from there. What's going to happen? Are you going to run into familiar races, familiar aliens from other franchises? Are you going to see something you've never seen before? I want to promise you adventure. I want to promise you a couple laughs. Are you going to run into Dom DeLuise? Quite possibly. I love the idea. It's so dumb. Like, I want this to be an adventure, and as Liam said, it's like Tour of Duty but with Star Trek. It's Star Trek but with guns and MacGyver, and that can be something really, really, really special. And this is something I've kind of rediscovered as I'm rewatching these episodes, is how much fun this franchise can be while still having a really concentrated, hard sci-fi lore that doesn't need to be The Expanse or The 100 or whatever. It's its own thing, and it doesn't need to be nitty-gritty like Battlestar Galactica, nor does it need to be high concept like Star Trek, but it can be if it wants to be. So am I going to aspire to be like the Stargate writers? Probably not, because I'm not there yet as a creative force. But what I can promise you is a good time, rolling some dice, probably Alex's suicide vest if I know him, and a ridiculously interesting ending to this thing. Because will this show go on to a season 2? Well, we'll have to wait and see as we run through the Stargates series. Also coming up with this show, because it's 2021 and we can do whatever the fuck we want. It's our podcast. I've downloaded the rules for Mass Effect, which is also using the 5th edition rule system. I think Mark Meir had just played on a CSEC game that where he was a kind of player character. Me and Alex have rules from Artal Sorian for Cyberpunk Red, and obviously if you've played Cyberpunk 2077 over the last couple of months, you've had an experience, we'll say that.
Yeah. We have Fate Core, and we even have a Mecha versus Kaiju splat book setting for that, so we could make our own Power Rangers technically.
Yeah, and there's also the official Power Rangers book supposedly coming out later on this year from Wizards of the Coast. Ultimately, we're going to do everything not D&D, but with a D&D flavoring, or whatever we want. That's the beauty of this. We can play whatever we want, however we want, with whoever we want, and it's going to be fun. And I'm looking forward to game mastering again. I'm hoping my duties outside of the podcast will allow me to continue doing this, but hey, it's only once or twice a month. I will make the time because I love hanging out with my friends, and if COVID has shown me anything, you got to treasure those virtual relationships as well as your ones you have close. I mean, the advantage is I live next door to Liam, but Alex, I talk to almost every single day on the phone, or we do the podcast every week. Ken, I talk to on Discord all the time. JT, we message a couple times a day. So this is a way for us all to come together as friends. It's a way for us to all come together as a community. And I got to thank you, the Twig listeners, for being with us for the last 14 years. So thank you to the relaunch of this second actual play podcast. And I'm glad I get to do it with this team. I'm honored to work with all of you, and I think this is going to be a fun project. So for TWIG, Tactical Weapons Integration Group, we have been. That's your cue, Alex.
I thought we were going in reverse order. But
no.
Okay.
Oh, you're going in reverse order for the other thing?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm thoroughly confused.
I fucking have, don't worry. This will happen often.
I was going to say this.
We're off to a great start.
Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye.
Obviously, Ken
Reels,
JT from Saskatoon,
and a very confused Liam Larson.
And I have been your gate master, Mike the Birdman, saying, Chevron's locked.
So, your thing, that thing, what's it symbolize? Peace?
Slavery. 2 false gods.
Right on. So, it's made out of...
Do not discuss it further.
I dig. It's cool. After the concert, me and Jenny, We're even thinking of crossing the border up to Canada.
For what reason?
You know, man. The war.
The war with Canada.
And I hope everybody enjoyed that. That was our episode 0. That's almost a year old at this point. That was the teaser we put out. So the regular show starts next Saturday, every Saturday, 7 a.m. Eastern time, for the next several episodes that we already had in the can, and we're going to be recording more, as I said. This is also an opportunity for me to test out some new mic equipment. Got a new podcasting microphone to upgrade. Should be a significant upgrade. Still going to have to play with the EQ settings. This is actually the first attempt at recording anything with it. As well as a new mixing board / portable podcast studio recorder, which is pretty interesting in what it can do for how small it is and the economical price point of it. As well as we've got new sound banks and music libraries that we've purchased that are royalty free, and some that we've actually, including the theme song for the show that we had custom ordered for that we own completely. So we'll be making new stingers, new transitionary music, new music beds, all that sort of stuff in the near. Just because some of the stuff is old, we're going to keep some of the old stuff just for retro-y type things, but it's time for a new, coat of paint for everything. We started about last year, but with the pandemic, we only got the website up. There's still a lot of stuff we got to tweak. We're going to be having new pod art. We're going to hopefully get into streaming like we planned on doing a while ago, now that we're getting some updated equipment. Birdman might be upgrading some of his equipment. He's got some ideas for new shows coming up. We're going to be returning with our Future Imperfect programming, our Loose Cannon. There might be a Turd of Treasure or two even before we return officially, because there might be stuff that came in while we were waiting to actually, stuff that was supposed to be for here for Christmas that is actually coming now because it was stuck at the ports, which was the case with the Anchor stuff that we reviewed just before Christmas. Now, anything else that's going on? There should be some collaboration stuff. There's going to be Sunday Funnies. I'm going to be returning on one of those. Again, we just got to figure out timing. I'll also be joining, I believe, Ken on this anime. I completely forget what it was, but there's going to be something fun we're going to talk about for sure. It's just logistics right now, Omicron, all this stuff. I've got my booster shot. Birdman, as of this recording, will be getting his in a couple days. And I know he'll feel, a lot better when everybody in his household is vaccinated that way too. So we've got a lot on the go. I just wanted to say, be careful out there. I know you've probably already gone out drinking if you were going to, but just this whole weekend, it's New Year's, be good to each other, be careful, be smart. Also, this little recorder that I have has a bunch of sound pad buttons, apparently some default things. Let's try something out here just before I go. I know there's like 11 built-in ones, but apparently I can add my own. So if Birdman does anything stupid or he gets super high and completely has an amazing outtake blooper, we might have those ready to go on the go whenever somebody says something dumb. We'll have to play the thing. And apparently this lets me record to the computer at the same time as that I record to the device, and it does it as separate tracks. Let's see what's the first one here. Okay, it's a rim shot. Then we've got horn jazz. Then a sad trombone. And there's an applause. Oh, you gotta hold the applause. Okay, those are just the generic terrible ones. We'll have to go through and see what other ones are there, but that's still kind of cool. So that's just a sneak peek of what's going on. And like I said, be sure to listen and download and subscribe every Saturday, 7 a.m. Eastern Time. If you have any feedback at ThisWeekInGeek.net. Hit me up, Alex at ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm running the socials right now. It's not gone on a hiatus. It's entirely, but I do monitor our Twitter account, This Week in Geek, and my own TWIG every day, multiple times a day. We just don't post as much when we're not putting out regular programming, but rest assured, if you send us a DM there, one of us, Birdman or I, will contact you because we share the account for that. Same goes for if you contact us via Facebook or if you have a question for Birdman, you can contact him directly. We'll take all feedback to heart because we want to make sure that 2022 is a fun, constructive year of growth. And I think, fingers crossed, 2022 is going to be a lot better than 2021. Knock on wood, hopefully. I really hope so. Thank you, and hope you have a happy new year.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.